Hi, welcome to In My Experience. I'm your host, Sonya Lee.
And I'm Piperlyne, and we are excited to have you here with us this week.
Because, boy, are we going to talk about what's been bugging us this week. Okay, what's been bugging me this week. So here we go. Buckle in.
That's right. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Functional politeness, respecting the fact that they are human. You'll have to tell me, have I shared the story about when I was a flight attendant, about another flight attendant and getting financial guidance? Did I ever share that story? No. I recently shared this story with someone else. So anyway, this goes hand in hand. I was a flight attendant for however many years I was a flight attendant. Anyway, I was flying with someone who was a friend-ish. You know, we were friendly, and sometimes we'd choose to fly together because we got along well.
Right.
And so anyway, we were working this flight, and this pilot, I don't know if he was first officer or captain, on between every flight, you know, that if we had a break on the ground, they would stand and talk, and she would ask him questions, financial questions and investment questions.
Right.
And a lot of flight crew have more than one career.
Mm-hmm.
Like they do the flight crew, and then like there's a lot of real estate agents.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so they do work on the side also. So it would not be surprising in the least for a pilot to be an investment financial
Analyst.
Right.
Whatever.
Support, whatever, right? Consultant.
There you go.
And so she's asking him all these questions, and he's answering her, and I mean, she's taking notes. And so
Wow.
I was like, wow. So after
That's when it's like E.F. Hutton. Should I be listening in on this? Right?
everyone listens.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm watching this. So finally, I asked her. I'm like. So is he a financial analyst or, you know, a consultant or anything? And she's like, no. I'm like, really? So why do you ask him, why are you like, you know,
Right.
has he made a lot of money
Right.
somewhere? And she's like, oh, I don't think so. Okay. So why are you asking him all these questions and taking notes on his answers? She's like, well, because he's a pilot and all pilots are rich, so he should know.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
And, you know, what can you say?
Well, right?
So you go, girl.
Right.
And I don't,
And good luck with that one.
right. I mean, maybe he gave excellent advice.
Who
I mean,
knows?
I truly
Right,
don't
there are
know.
some people that are just good with money, good with numbers,
Right.
good with whatever.
Right. But it was so interesting because she defaulted to that because
Right.
she saw him in a position of power.
I guess it was better than her just saying he was a man.
Well, yes. Yes.
You might
Because
have.
that I probably
Would have said something.
Yeah, some shit may have come out of my mouth then. But,
Right,
you know,
right.
pretty much I'm like, you do your thing, I'll go
Right,
on.
right.
But, yeah, so it was just interesting because he held a position of authority in her eyes.
Right,
And therefore, what he said must be correct.
right.
And that's how she laid it out for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not that she knew that he was good at
No,
it, but
no.
she laid that, and I was just, the thing is, there are so many people that believe that about different things. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean, there is education, right? And education is important in certain things. You want your pilots to be educated
Right.
on how to fly an aircraft,
Right.
right? So education is important. Experience is important. Knowledge, wisdom, all of that is important. But the assumption that someone has that because of a title that they hold or a job that they do
Right.
doesn't necessarily flow with me.
Especially if it's not something that is in the line of work that they're doing.
Mm,
Like, I might ask a doctor a medical question,
absolutely.
but I'm not going to ask him a question about repairing my transmission.
Right. Yeah, I'll ask the pilot about what's going on there on the flight deck.
Thank you. Right?
Right? Because he's going to know better than I am, that's for sure. And the
Sure.
captain probably know better than the first officer because of experience.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
It's like that.
So how often do we default
A lot.
to other people's, or assuming other people's knowledge?
We do it all the time. The professor that must know more because he's the expert. The doctor that must know more because he's the expert.
No, I have
The,
questioned
you know what I mean?
doctors.
Well, sure,
And-
but it's amazing how many people don't.
I know. No, I know, because in my nonprofit, right?
Yes.
So we work. It's a medical. We are not medical, but we work with a medical diagnosis
Right.
in the nonprofit, and the conversations and the pain that these families deal with in trusting a doctor
Mm-hmm.
and not asking questions and not doing their own research or not even following their own gut.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I see it all the time. Like, it's
terrible.
you know, having been in healthcare and then being a patient advocate for, you know, a number of people, it's amazing to me. It's like, well, did you ask? Well, no, because they said, well, you know, and then some people, well, I didn't want to, you know, make them mad. And I have had doctors that have been, you know, like, Google is the worst thing that ever happened. And I'm like, really?
I see. I
Because-
see mothers post that all the time. Oh, they told me not to Google.
Because I'm sorry. If
You
you,
have to be
had the
discerning.
answers, then I wouldn't have to go to try to see if maybe there might be something else that's happening, because you're the 7th doctor that I've been to with this, and
Right.
nobody seems to know.
Right.
So now I'm taking my symptoms and I'm trying to see what they could be, and then I'm coming to you to ask you, do you think that this is? I'm not telling you this is what it is.
Right.
I'm asking you for your medical expertise on some information that I'm finding. Now, if you're threatened by Google, then maybe you're not the doctor for me. But if I can't have a conversation with you about my health,
Right.
then you're definitely not the doctor for me.
Right.
And then a lot of times they either clam up, and then we all know it's all been said, right? You can leave now. Or they immediately begin to retract that.
Right.
Because now they realize that what they've done is shut me off from having the information that I need to make the sort of decisions for my own health care.
Right.
Now, that's one thing when you're an adult. You do that with your child, you risk them calling CPS and taking your children from you because you dare to defy a doctor or get a second opinion. And if you don't think that's not happening, I got some stories for you. Check out medicalkidnap.com. Because that's what we deal with when you deal with authority figures. We're dealing with this with the police now. Everybody wants to defund the police because they've become so abusive. We gave them the power.
Yes,
And
we
then we gave them the tools, the tactical gear, the equipment, the freaking Sherman tanks. I'm sorry, but the town of Pinetop does not need a freaking tank. And I'm not
You
picking
know-
on Pinetop. I just threw that out there, okay? I'm not
Just
saying
small
Pinetop
town,
has it, right?
Just on my drive here.
Yes.
On my drive here, there
Yes.
was a car accident, right? On the other side.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of them today.
So I'm driving by, and I see lights,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm assuming, and they're up high,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm assuming it's an ambulance or fire truck. No, it's a tank.
Oh, God.
Since you just said that,
Oh, my God.
it is on the freeway for a car accident.
Are you kidding me?
No.
All right.
It was huge and green and police lights on top. It was not a fire truck and it was not an ambulance.
What? All right, whatever.
And yeah, there.
See, and then you have these things that people
And
don't
there
know
is
this.
no need for that.
Right, and people don't realize that, like, with regard to, like, budgets and spendings and things like that, if, it's a use it or lose it kind of thing with the federal government. The federal
Right.
government gives you X amount of dollars for all sorts of things. Schools, infrastructures, bridges, police departments, all these sorts of things, right? And if you don't use those funds, then they decide that you don't need them, and then they give them to somebody else. Right? And so, in order to ensure that there's that continuous flow of funds, which, by the way, most of our government systems at the local level are the biggest welfare recipients in this country, just saying. And so they do whatever they can to use those funds so that they can ensure that they will get exactly that or more next time, not less.
Right.
We can't do with less, but you did with less this year, right?
Well, and then the government sells them. My understanding is the government sells them at discounted rates.
Right.
It doesn't give them to them, but sells them at discounted rates.
Right.
But does not include anything that might be required in the upkeep.
Right.
Of them.
Well, and here's the other thing: they're buying these things from the manufacturers at full retail price. Then turning around, let's say, for example, like, because we'll start going down the line of conspiracy theory, and I want people to listen. But this is what I came to understand. Like, why do the small towns have the Sherman tanks, right? This is because he allocated for these funds or these things, to be given to them, whatever. But they bought these things at full military dollar. Okay, yes, they have contracts and things like that, but, the $2,700 hammer and the $512 bolt, right? Mm-hmm. For them in making these things. And then when they have the surplus, they turn around and, like you say, they give them to them at discounted prices. And no, they may not help them with the upkeep, but we're losing money on these deals.
Yes.
Like, we're bleeding money. And that, to me, is like the biggest thing that makes me madder than anything else with it as it relates to our elected officials. They are the worst money managers ever, and if they worked for us, not a single employer would keep them. And yet we keep bringing them back.
And that's all of them.
And they're the ones that are making all the money.
Right.
It absolutely boggles my mind how somebody can go in making $125,000 a year and walk out a multimillionaire, and that's before they start getting the endorsements and the speaking contracts.
Because we think so little of ourselves that we vote people.
There's so many things wrong that have absolutely nothing to do with a color or a preference or a party. And they have been so effective at keeping us distracted with the shiny object that we are now in a space where nobody even talks about that anymore.
Well, it wouldn't work if we didn't do it. I mean,
right? Stop hitting yourself.
It's our government.
Right?
It's
We
our
are
government.
the worst masochists
It's ours.
on the planet.
It's all ours.
It is all ours. And I know we're not the only ones. I know that there are other countries. I'm not saying that we don't have a great country. We do. I'm not going to say we're the greatest country in the world because I don't know that. I haven't traveled anywhere. I can't make that kind of decision without having some informed, information. But I like this country. I'm enjoying it. So, but I do see some of these things and I just think to myself, I mean, I can't be the only one that looks at them and does the dog ear thing. Right. It just doesn't make sense. Right. And I mean, I admit it. My Capricorn moon likes things to make sense. Right? Mm-hmm. And I can feel all day long. But at the end of the day, it's got to make sense, too, right? Like, that's how I rope him in with the feels, and then now let's bring it and make it reals. And I can't do that. I can't do that. And it's making me crazy because I can't be the only one. Am I the only one?
I don't
I
think
feel
so.
like I'm the only one.
I don't think so.
And I'm sorry. I just don't think, whatever the outcome is of this, I'm going to say it right now here today. I don't think it will change a bloomin' thing.
Well, it's not. No, it's not. It doesn't matter who wins and who loses, and it's not the end.
It's not the end, and I don't think it's going to make a difference. Because I think the only thing that's going to make a difference is for us to change.
Right. Because we put them there. They are
the mirror reflection of us.
Absolutely.
There. Said it.
Absolutely. It is. Well, that's, I mean, it was like literally created that way.
Yes, there was. It's so beautiful. When you go to the higher perspective, like, honest to God, they should write for NBC because they are such. I'd watch this show. Like, I'd be sitting there 7 p.m. I wanted, and I'm sure that they're
living it.
If it wasn't living it,
maybe
right?
I'd watch
Right.
it.
Like, as a reality show, not so much.
Well, I strangely really do like post-apocalyptic movies
I know.
or shows.
Right?
So we're not post-apocalyptic. We're pre-apocalyptic.
Pre-apocalyptic.
I do like to believe that we don't have to reach the apocalyptic part, at least not in
Well, I didn't
the
think
pain
so.
and human suffering.
I didn't think so, but I'm beginning to wonder a little bit. Like, I have a friend
Well,
of mine
I
that
think
says
the universe
he
is
thinks it's going to
wondering.
be anarchy, riots in the street, and I always said, no, I have more faith
Eric?
in my. Yeah. You just outed it. She just outed you, baby. I didn't say that.
No one knows
No,
but us three.
yes, we do know, and yes.
No one knows but us three.
And I've had to sort of retract and come back and go, I think you might have something there. And I just didn't think that was possible.
Well,
but
the
now I
signs
don't
are
know.
there astrologically.
They are there astrologically.
I mean, this could be. We have cried and complained and wallowed in our beers and tears and water
And
about
fears.
2020, right? And that's all valid, unbelievably valid. But there's no real sign that 2021 is going to be better.
Not yet.
No, I mean,
Well, as you look at the astrology, no.
no.
2022, maybe 2023. I wasn't going to go there, but you did.
But I did.
So let's see if we
just do it.
can't soften this blow a bit.
But it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that we still can't control our experience.
Listen, this is a big vehicle, and in order to make this turn, we're either going to need a big space to make that U-turn, or it's going to be a three-pointer. It just is what it is. It's too big to make this turn without, a little beep, 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 and then forward, and then beep, beep. And I
Are we
like to
sure
think,
only 3 point?
maybe, I don't know. It depends on who's driving, really.
Because I've done 7 points.
7-point turns, right?
But I got my ass out of there. And
Because somebody parked way too close to you.
It's like inch back,
Right.
1 inch forward, inch back.
You just described where we are right now.
So we're hitting 21.
21.
21
right,
point
right?
turn.
21-point turn. There we go. Yeah, 2021, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, even though this is a way touchy thing to be discussing, you and I discuss these sorts of things, and so we're just doing it on the air
Here
today.
we are.
And I think that, it's just thoughts. We're not casting aspersions or judgments or even spells. We're just,
Though there are those who are doing that.
oh, yes.
No, I mean we are literally, all of us, literally doing the best we can.
Yeah.
I mean it really, and our capacity for that varies wildly per person and maybe even per moment per person.
Yeah, that's true. Who is the person? What is the moment?
Right.
Right?
So our capacity to do that is fluctuating. But we are, all of us, even the 2 crazy people that were on the TV last night that I did not watch, are doing
I took one for the team.
the best they can. And
Yeah.
I know that
Right.
I'm sure everyone could point to how that is not true.
Correct.
But it is true.
If we are all, as we say, right, big shiny stars here,
Right.
big powerful, they don't bring, what did I say last week? They don't let the weak asses come here.
No. God,
So if
no.
we're all strong asses, and sometimes we act like very strong asses, then, in the grand scheme, the grand design of things, this is just like Robert Schoenfeld, I believe is his name. I have to double check that. But he writes this book, and in the book, he talks about how, imagine that your life is a movie. And you are, you get to hire everybody in the movie. You get to hire the directors, the grips, the actors, the stagehands, like all of these things, right? And so, if that's the case, then, we have this beautifully scripted movie that is going to have the drama. It's going to have some laughter. It's going to have some tears. And hopefully it's going to have a happy ending. Because we're here to learn and grow.
Right.
So from that perspective, that higher perspective, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do this. We got this. We got this. And then some moments, it's just like, oh my God, we're never going to make it.
Right.
We're really not going to make it this time.
When I started working for the airline, I was 19 at the time. And after being there 6 months, I was hired as a supervisor. I did not do well. It was funny. I was good with the technical and operations. I didn't do well with the people.
Right.
I didn't do well with
because that's always the problem in management. I'm sorry. Continue.
But what I started doing, since you brought up acting, is when I would, the most challenging time, or the one that I had the biggest learning curve on, was dealing with the really nasty customers, right? I want to talk to the supervisor. Mm-hmm. And this was back in the 80s, 90s, late 80s. Anyway, so it's not necessarily, I had a learning curve. I'll just go with that.
Okay.
I had a learning curve. And so I would get really worked up in having these conversations with these people. And so what I started doing was approaching it with the idea that I was just an actress playing the role of a supervisor.
Oh.
And as soon as I did that, they couldn't shake me.
Right.
Because it wasn't me. This person that's screaming names at me, it's not me. It's the role that we're all playing.
Exactly.
Right? And I did this without any this is just how I taught myself to get through the really hard times. So I'm like, all right. So I'm just being the supervisor in the movie right now. So I'm just going to do that. And literally overnight, how I dealt with people changed. Mm-hmm. Because nothing was personal.
Right.
Now, I didn't necessarily expand it to everything else in my life at that point in time, but I learned it there.
Right.
Nothing was personal. It didn't matter what they said. I knew what I could do. I knew what I could accomplish. I knew what they couldn't do.
Right.
And that's just the boundaries we worked in between.
That's right.
And that's just the way it was.
Right.
And, yeah.
I had a broker that was like that in property management, and she would just tell me all the time, it's just business, Sonya, don't take it so personal.
Right.
But it was hard for me because I took ownership of everything, right?
Yeah.
And when you take ownership in property management, that's the death knell, man. You cannot make owners happy all the time, or tenants happy all the time, or anybody happy any of the time. And so, but to watch her do it, it was incredibly admirable, awe-inspiring, and not a skill set that I had at that point in my life at all. I'm still struggle with it sometimes because I still, I get caught in my justice trap, and I've had to do a lot of work on that.
Right.
But for her, but to watch her and have someone just screaming and raging and face turning red and threatening lawsuits
and spit coming out of
and
their mouth,
hanging up on you.
Oh yeah.
And then calling back later to scream more, and then hang up on you again.
Yeah.
And she would this is what we can do.
Right.
This is the way that it is. So, are we going to move forward with this or not?
Right.
Like, they could scream all they wanted, but at the end of the day, this issue still had to be resolved.
And they had a choice between whatever things.
Right. Because... but you only had those choices, right?
Right, that's it.
Right?
These are what we can do.
It doesn't matter that it was the tenant's fault that the AC went out because they never changed the AC filter. It's July, the AC is out, and it needs to be repaired. And that is your responsibility in this moment.
Yes.
Right? Coulda, woulda, shoulda, get a home warranty. But but just to watch her not take anything personally, not to get emotionally connected. I mean, yes, she was a Capricorn, But more than that, though, I just think that she somewhere had learned early on to, it's the cost of doing business. You just keep moving forward, and you get it done. And I just I was just awestruck by it.
Yeah.
It was a skill set that I admired that I didn't have, right?
See, and it is a skill set. I think that's the thing.
It's
a skill set that we can use across the board in our life. Now, I'm not saying that I can do that
Right.
all the time.
No.
Everywhere.
Right. And I could do it in some areas in personal relationships where I couldn't do it in that business setting, and maybe she wasn't so good
Right.
in that personal. So, I think it is a skill set, like you say, in where we apply it. It's all there for us, right? It's like intuition. Everybody can tap into their intuition. Everybody has intuition. It's just a matter of whether or not you use it. I have a rice cooker, but if I put rice in my Instant Pot or on the stove, my rice cooker's never going to get used. But I have a rice cooker. I own it. It's in my home.
Unbelievably clear and simple explanation. Seriously.
Yeah, I like that one too. I love my Instant Pot. By the way.
Yay! Instant
Anyway.
Pot.
Oh, and by the way, the gentleman's name was Robert Scheinfeld, Scheinfeld, and he wrote "Busting Loose from the Money Game," and the other one that I really liked was "The Invisible Path to Success." He's written several books.
I feel like I've read.
Oh, I know you probably have.
Busting
Yeah.
Loose.
Everybody
It sounds
has. I think it
familiar.
went through.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he
Totally.
But I just love.
I remember getting that book,
Yeah.
and you were like, I was like, that's not what I expected,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Because he uses spiritual principles, but when you read look at the cover, you don't get that.
No, it's another Robert Kiyosaki, blah blah blah, whatever.
Yeah.
And he just brings things to you in a way where you really step out of money, right?
Right.
And into, like I said, you are the director of a film. Do the film.
Right.
And all that's involved in that, right?
Right.
And so, and then that speaks to sort of like manifesting an intentions too, who we have in our life. One of the big things I talk about is how a lot of people will say that they don't know anybody, that's voting for a certain person, or they don't know anybody that has a certain experience in life. And we talk about sort of like the cocooning, or the, I can't think of the other word that they use for it, but, basically, if you only associate with certain people, then no, you're not going to do that because you haven't opened yourself up to the diversity of experiences with other people.
Absolutely.
And I think that because time, which is an illusion, but has become such an issue for us, especially here in the States, that we have had to make some decisions about how we use our time and who we spend our time with. And that is how we've sort of come into these little isolation bubbles of our mind.
Right.
And as far as the openness to diversity, in whatever way that is, and I'm not just talking about the things that we're talking about in diversity today. I think that if you can't see another person's point of view, even if you disagree with it, you are not diverse.
Right.
And, and I'm calling that shot.
Right.
Because there are so much out there of we're right and you're wrong, and that's wrong.
Right.
That's the, how about this? We feel compelled to share with you our point of view, and maybe you will share yours, and then we can decide whether there's any common ground, at least understand each other's point of view a little bit better.
Right.
And we don't have any of that because it immediately devolves to name calling, to finger pointing, to you're the reason that we're in the country, which I think is an incredible thing to put on any single person.
Yeah.
We are all in this together. We've all created this mess together. And if we don't come together, we need to come together in order to correct it, in order to change it and shift it.
We did all create this together. And I can hear people I know screaming in my head, going, I didn't have anything to do with this. Yes, you did, or you wouldn't be here.
Right. Like I used to tell my kids, a lie by omission is still a lie. Right? Whether you participate or you don't participate, whether you choose or you don't choose, that's participation through non-participation. That's choice. Not choosing is a choice.
Right.
Right? We didn't all come here. Well, there are some of us that came here just to observe. We talked about that already. But even the observers get to have a vote.
Right.
Get to have a say. And we just have to take ownership of that.
Well, I think it comes down to understanding that we truly are powerful.
Yeah, I'm so tired of us being so small and so weak and so...
And we can't embrace that until we understand how we have played a part at where we are and what part we will, and then we can consciously choose what part we will play or not in the future. That there is...
I know.
We're so much more powerful than what we are.
And
than what we
are allowing
believe,
us.
What we do, how we speak. We are so much more powerful.
And even not even from this global perspective, just within your own individual life. I know this is something I've been working on for myself, and since we're talking about our own individual experiences, in stepping into my own power in new ways. Right? Like I know where my power lies, and being, you don't leave until you've finished all of your growth. Right? When there's nothing else to grow, then it's time to go. And you're ready to go because it's a good thing, right? So, continuing to expand and grow, right? There's some things that I'm really powerful at, and then the other things that I'm just stepping into my power. And that's an uncomfortable space to be as I'm doing it, just like it was as I was stepping into my power in other situations. Anybody that's ever had to overcome a challenge or an obstacle or a bad relationship or a tragedy or a trauma knows what it is to step into their power.
Because that's how they changed it.
Because that's what we mean by this.
That's how they changed the situation, is because they stepped into their power.
So, we continue to do this, and the latest thing for me in stepping in my power is expanding myself to see and recognize that what I do in my own personal life at the local level ripples and replicates into the collective.
Right.
So the very best thing that I can do right now, and it's not cliche, and it's not just, it's one of those wonderful little affirmations, put it on a picture frame. Take care of myself.
Yeah.
If I clean my own house, take care of my own crap, clear my own stuff, that's going to be better for everyone around me.
Right.
And that's going to bring the change.
Something there. You are shifting your energy there. Then you go out and you respond and you react and you receive and you give differently because of that.
And that's more than enough to be on my plate, because right now I'm really having a hard time with myself. So if I am, and I've been doing this for years, I can't even imagine what it's like for someone that's finally just decided, hey, maybe I should get my shit together. Right?
Well, and as usual...
Whatever that looks like.
Whatever that is. As usual, between Sonya and I, the parallels are amazing, because, I have been sitting with the taking care of myself portion of my life for the past number of months. Getting clear on that and understanding and how much it's needed for me, so that I can function at the level that I know I can.
Right.
So that I can cause the impact that I know that I can. And I can't do it not to the level. I am underperforming.
Ooh.
Underperforming in my own life. And I don't like that.
Right. And sometimes we do that on purpose.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And
There's
sometimes
no-
we just sort of trip and fall and find ourselves there. It doesn't matter how you got there.
No, there's no judgment attached to it.
At
I'm
all.
not sitting here
No.
judging myself on it. It just is.
It is. It's an observation. It's an awareness. And then there's
And
the
I don't
choice.
like it.
What do I want to do about this?
Right.
Do I want to do anything about this?
Right, absolutely.
Can I
mean,
do anything about this?
I could absolutely remain right where I am and
Mm-hmm.
not do anything about it. That would be my choice and my right.
Right.
And I don't want that
Right.
in my life, so I am choosing differently.
And then that creates a new uncomfortable space for you.
Yes.
Because when you've made that choice that this isn't what you want to do something different, then what you are in has to become uncomfortable enough that it will continue to motivate you to change. When people go through difficulties and challenges, it's because they've said, and I don't, well, let me rephrase this because I'm going to get some grief on this. Let me rephrase that one. So, in my life experience, when I've needed to shift something for me because I needed to change my state of being, it was usually precipitated by something uncomfortable, unliked, or unloved in my life that I need to get away from, transcend, overcome, kill, or, or forgive or heal or whatever, right? But something's got to shift. And that discomfort will stay with me until I'm no longer in that space.
Right.
Because that's part of that's helping to keep me on track
Right.
with that shift.
And I disagree, or not, no, I agree with that. And I want to add that it is my understanding of how life works that the clearer and more grounded and more neutral we are in our own life, we need less drama
Ooh.
to get us to that point.
Right.
Right? We don't.
No, it's so true. You don't have to suffer through any of this.
No, we don't need the 2x4
I've been told that
to
a
our
lot of
head,
times.
right? And and I have chosen suffering, my friends.
Uh.
I have done it many times in my life. So,
But she suffers. She suffers.
oh my goodness, I have suffered.
Right?
Yes, and that is not to minimize the pain that anyone has ever gone through in their life whatsoever.
Or to say that there's a fine line between saying you brought this on yourself and yes, we all brought this on ourselves.
Right.
Right?
So at a higher level, absolutely.
Yes, but in a
Absolutely.
human level, I wouldn't be that cruel.
No, I don't. That gets into spiritual bypassing, and that's a whole other comment.
Yeah, we're not talking about that today.
Yeah, we're not going there.
We
but-
might, but not today.
I have a whole pile of things we could talk about spiritual bypassing. But no, yeah, absolutely. I mean, on a higher level, at the highest level that we can view our life from, we brought all of this on because we're here. And in some way we chose it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't negate the pain and the trauma, and it doesn't negate any of it.
No.
It doesn't. It just allows us to maybe view it in a different way so that we can use it for our own growth.
Right. And when you look at history, you see how that really has played out through our evolution.
Yeah.
Because some people will say, well, we were kinder, in the olden days. Yeah, go check history.
Really?
Not so much. We might have been more polite,
That's true.
courteous.
Right.
We used more
Less direct wording.
decorum and, that sort of thing. But to say that we were kinder, no.
No.
No. History doesn't support that at all. And the further go back in history, the more knuckle dragging it is.
Right.
Right? Because there were some
The
things
less
where it really
kinder.
was direct and blunt. You're a witch and let's hang her.
Right.
String her up, right? In fact, I was listening to somebody talk about this and they were talking about the history of that and they said that at the end of the witch trials, the majority of the ones that were called witches and were killed were children. How do we go as a society from taking a midwife and an herbalist and calling her a witch and stringing her up or beheading her and devolving through the people, through the village,
Right.
to where we are killing children because they've got the devil or they're witches?
Not so kind.
And we talk about our children at risk today, and again, all I can say to you is yes, and not the first time.
Right.
We've got a long history of not taking care of our children.
No, this is true.
I mean, my grandfather, didn't get a high school or didn't get an education because he had to work the farm. Lots of grandfathers and grandmothers probably had to do that, right?
Absolutely.
And, and they survived, but I feel like as we have gone through all of these alliterations, one of the reasons why I love history so much is because we can look back at that, and I think it's important that we look back at that and not bypass it.
Correct.
Because there's knowledge to be gained in that. When we can understand the mindset of someone that would choose to enslave someone else, then we have a better concept and understanding of what it looks like to get to that state of understanding.
Right.
I'm
Definitely.
sure there was a justification that was completely valid then, and we look at it with horror today.
Right.
But that didn't just happen. There's a couple of 100 years in between there, right? And we forget that sometimes.
Right.
Even when we go back to look at things, we want to try and blame what's happening today on something that happened a long time ago. We are not those people.
No.
So we are either putting ourselves in a box which is limiting, or we've got some unexpressed, unhealed stuff that needs to be done. But I don't think we need to go all the way back to that date in history to clean it up. We can stand in this space and time here and say from this point on, no more.
Correct.
I mean, we do this in hypno all the time.
Yes.
We can rewrite our timelines. Doesn't mean I got to go back and live that and to make it be rewritten.
No. Not at all.
So, as we've evolved, we need to evolve our ability to evolve in an evolutionary way.
Yes.
Because it's there. It's there. It's that's the one good thing that keeps me optimistic is the fact that we have progressed, not regressed.
Right.
Even though there may be some thoughts
There's
to the
maybe-
contrary.
There may be some areas.
Right. But if we
Or-
have regressed, perhaps it's so that we can redress,
Right.
right? Some issues that got skipped over.
Mm-hmm.
And that does happen. And that I'm totally down for. But like I always say, you can sit in it, just don't live in it.
Right.
And right now we've been living in it for far too long, and it's bringing us down.
Yeah.
It is taking us from those powerful, manifestors and co-creators and turning us into victims
Right.
and prisoners. And that, I don't believe, was ever the purpose in this incarnation.
Right.
I can't speak to previous ones. I'm just talking about this one. And
This one are moving forward.
correct, because this is the put our pin in it. We're going a new way.
Right.
We've got a new direction here. And everything points to that, even if you can't see it.
Yeah.
Like, I can see it. It seems like it's still a little bit kind of, it's that airplane that's landing, but not for another 20 minutes. And so at this point, I can't see it in the sky yet. But I do see on the board that it is going to arrive on time. So, color me crazy. But
You optimist.
I can't believe the glass is half full. Again, I just feel very strongly that there is an opportunity here on the table still that we're just overlooking. And I ask myself that every single day. What opportunities are here that I'm not seeing yet, or I'm not seeing now? And allowing myself to widen that scope.
Yeah.
to have the eyes to see, have the ears to hear, have the heart to feel, and have the inner knowing to connect to the truth. Not my truth, the truth.
It's definitely a call, a scream to claim your personal power.
I want my real name.
Claim. I know, you have said that. I think we should talk about that later too.
Yeah.
Another time.
Okay, we'll put a pin in that one too.
All right, sounds good.
Well, in any event, I think this was quite the interesting discussion today.
Yes, we went from the swearing and the A word to now the P word, politics.
Well, it's the
The thing
elephant
is,
in the room.
Everything is political at this point.
It
This
really
is.
is.
This is where it has bubbled to. So
At least here in America. If you're
Yes.
not here,
Bless you.
right? Dancing in the streets.
Though this is a worldwide thing.
It really is. Everybody's watching. I would. Popcorn, cozy up on the
our,
couch.
our drama is out there for everyone to see, but there's drama going over.
Well, you know what? We were the ones though that stood up and said, "Okay, yes, we'll take the lead here." And so now
we'll
we
lead
are.
in the garbage.
We'll lead. But at the time, right? I mean, historically, we've done a lot of things that a lot of other countries have looked to. That a lot of other countries have us, wanted to assimilate or ascribe to or create within their own
right.
country. So I think there's been some good influences. And I definitely think, like all good things, excess leads to waste and abuse. It's there's the catalyst, there's the growth, there's the flower, there's the decay, there's the going back to the fallow land, the regeneration, and then the rebirth. I mean, this is the cycle of birth and destruction, of creation and destruction.
Right.
And it is cyclic, and it continues to go. And so
Yeah,
to
you
put
can't get
all
away
of our
from it in the 3D
apples
world.
in the basket of destruction without knowing that through destruction comes creation is...
Short-sighted.
Thank you. There were so many words in my head. Nope, trigger, nope, yes, thank you.
Yes, that one.
Short-sighted. It is short-sighted. It's very short-sighted.
Yeah.
And it is disempowering.
Yes.
So as you go through this next week, I ask you, where you feel disempowered, move through that to the power. There's power there as well. If you're holding a stick, there's two ends to it. Just saying.
That's classic hypnotherapy right there. Classic.
I am classically trained.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for joining us this week.
And staying if you made it through the whole episode.
Yeah, if you're still here. Woohoo! So this is In My Experience, and I am Piperlyne.
And I am Sonya Lee.
And
you can find us on podbean.com, in my experience. Our email address is inmyexperience1111@gmail.com. And our website is inmyexperience.life. So until next week, keep your chin up, but keep your head down.
There you go. I have nothing better to add, so we'll leave it right there.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Ta-ta.